Welcome to a place where hearts unwind, infinite threads that gently bind, love and compassion in every line. Together we rise through space and time.
Welcome back to Infinite Threads. I'm your host, Bob. There's a kind of moment that slips in when you're not trying to be profound. You're just living. You're washing a plate, you're driving down a familiar street, you're half listening to the hum of the heater, half thinking about nothing in particular, and then it happens. Something lines up. Not in a flashy way, not in a sign from the heavens way, more like a quiet click inside the chest. A subtle feeling of recognition. A song you haven't heard in years plays at the exact moment you're thinking about someone you haven't spoken to in years. A stranger says a simple sentence that lands right on the bruise you didn't tell anyone about. You notice the same number more than once, not because the universe is trying to show off, but because your attention gets snagged by the repetition. Like a loose thread you can't help but pull on. Or you meet someone and you don't feel newness so much as you feel familiarity, like your life already had a space shaped exactly like them and you just didn't know it until they arrived. These moments don't prove anything in the scientific sense. They don't have to. They're not courtroom evidence and they're not meant to be. They're more like hints, like life tapping you gently on the shoulder and saying, pay attention. There's more going on than you've been taught to notice. Most of us are trained to call all of this coincidence. We're trained to be careful, to be skeptical, to not embarrass ourselves by seeing meaning where meaning might not exist. And honestly, that caution can be healthy. It keeps us grounded. But it can also make us blind, because there's another kind of humility that matters too. The humility of admitting we might not fully understand the architecture of the world we're living inside. We like to think reality is mostly random and meaning is something we manufacture to cope. We like to think love is a sweet little human invention, useful, beautiful, but essentially extra, like frosting, like a bonus feature. But what if that's backwards? What if love isn't the frosting? What if love is the grain of the wood? What if love isn't something we pour into life from the outside, but something life is already built from, something running through it, holding it together, giving it coherence? Because when you look around, the universe doesn't just exist. It organizes, it shapes, it repeats, it echoes, it makes patterns. And not cold, mechanical patterns either. Not only the kind you see in math textbooks. I'm talking about the kind you see in seashell spirals. The kind you see in branching trees. The kind you see in rivers that find their way downhill, curving and carving and refusing to go straight, like nature prefers beauty to efficiency. And then you look at human life and you realize patterns don't stop at physics. They move into hearts. We repeat stories, we revisit themes, we carry certain wounds like they're chapters that keep getting reread until something finally shifts. We find ourselves drawn to the same kind of person, the same kind of dynamic, the same kind of fear, the same kind of hunger, until we learn what we're here to learn. And even our healing seems patterned. Not tidy, not linear, but cyclical, like seasons. We make progress, then we stumble, then we understand something deeper. Then we grieve again, then we laugh again, then we realize that we're still here. We change and we don't, And somehow, both of those are true at the same time. Now, you could say this is all just the brain doing what brains do. You could say humans are pattern recognition machines, and we're always trying to connect dots, even dots that aren't really connected. And that's true. We do that. We do that. But here's the question that keeps me awake in the best way. What if our hunger to recognize patterns isn't just a trick of the mind? What if it's a clue about the world we live in? What if the reason we keep trying to connect everything is because everything really is connected? And on some level, we already know it. Not as a belief and not as a philosophy we picked up to feel comforted. As a deep, quiet knowing we can't fully articulate. The kind that lives below language. Because I've noticed something strange about love, and I want to say this carefully. Love isn't just a feeling. Love is a force of connection. And connection isn't an ornament of existence. It's a requirement for anything to happen at all. Nothing exists in isolation. Even the most solid thing you can imagine is a swirl of relationships inside itself. Parts holding together, influences balancing, energies, and interacting. You and I are not separate little islands. We're ecosystems, we're weather systems, we're living intersections. We affect each other just by existing near each other. We absorb moods, we transmit tension. We walk into a room and know something happened before we arrived without anyone saying a word. We carry the touch of our parents' love, or the absence of it, into our adult friendships, into our marriages, into the way we speak to strangers on a Tuesday afternoon. We are shaped by people we barely remember, and we shape people who will barely remember us. That's one of the strangest truths. Your kindness can become part of someone else's internal voice, and you might never know it. So when I talk about love as a force, I'm not trying to be poetic, just to be poetic. I mean it in the most grounded way I can. Love is what makes relation possible. Love is what keeps us from collapsing into pure self-centeredness. Love is what stretches the thread between two minds and says, you matter to me. I see you. You're real. And when that thread gets stretched enough times, it becomes something that feels like structure, like pattern, like the universe isn't just a blank stage we walk across, but a living fabric that responds to the way we move through it. This is where the episode title comes from, the pattern beneath the pattern. Because we can see surface patterns all day long. Habits, repetitions, cycles of behavior, history rhyming, nature spiraling, everything mirroring everything. But I'm more interested in what's underneath those visible shapes. What is the pattern beneath them? What is the organizing principle that makes a universe even capable of coherence? And I'm going to say what I believe plainly, and then I'm going to let it breathe. I believe the love force is that principle, the real thing, the thing that chooses connection over domination, the thing that refuses to dehumanize, the thing that can look at a human being, even a difficult one, and still say, somewhere in there, you are a soul. Somewhere in there, you are worth saving. That kind of love doesn't just change people. It changes the field between people. It changes what becomes possible next. And if you start paying attention, you'll notice life behaves differently when love is present. When a person feels seen, their nervous system changes. When a child feels safe, their brain develops differently. When a community is held together by compassion, the whole place takes on a different atmosphere, like the air itself is less sharp. When someone finally forgives themselves, their body loosens its grip on pain that medicine couldn't touch. I'm not saying love fixes everything instantly. I'm not saying it's magic that erases suffering. I'm not here to sell you a shiny version of reality either. I'm saying love has effects, real ones, observable ones. And if love has effects, then love is operating like a force. And if love is operating like a force, then the pattern beneath the pattern might not be random. It might be relational. It might be that the universe itself leans towards connection the way a vine leans toward light. Now let me bring this down to a human level because it's easy to float away when we talk like this. Think about the way certain experiences come back around. You face the same kind of conflict in a different decade with a different face on it. You find yourself at the edge of the same fear, just wearing new clothes. You're asked to choose again whether you'll protect your ego or protect love. And sometimes it's almost spooky how exact the repetition feels. Like life is giving you another chance to respond differently. Like a gentle retake. Not to shame you, but to offer you freedom. And if you take that chance, if you choose love instead of old reflex, something shifts. Sometimes it's barely visible, but you can feel it. A new branch grows in your inner world, a new pathway, a new possibility. And what strikes me is that those moments stack up, not like a checklist, but like a weaving, thread by thread, choice by choice, presence by presence. And after a while, you start to sense the outline of a design you didn't consciously plan. You start to realize you've been building something with your life, whether you meant to or not. Think about it, guys. I love you all very, very much, and we are connected. I guarantee you. Now, you know what I need you to do, right? Go out and pass that on. All right. Later, Gators. Bye-bye.